When I was 8 years old, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. To a third grader, it seemed like the end of the world. Everything was going to change forever, and I could lose my dad. Thankfully, I wasn't quite right. My dad has been cancer-free for 8 years, and my life has been pretty normal. I was running about one thing, though. That experience changed me, and it shaped me into the person that I am today. In the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you how this early adversity shaped me and challenged me to become a better person, and how we, as we approach what is hopefully the beginning of the end of the COVID-19 pandemic, can change the circumstances that we've all faced over the past year to be ones that ultimately better us all. I've thought a lot about my dad's cancer battle recently. I don't really remember when my parents first told me that my dad was sick. You'd think I'd have a really specific memory of my parents sitting my sisters and me down and telling us what was going on, but I don't. What I do remember, though, is how our lives changed over the next 6 months. Over the years, I've realized that that experience actually taught me a lot. I bet something similar is happening to many of you. Do you remember when you first heard about COVID-19, when it was still only detected overseas? If I had to guess, you probably don't. But we're all going to remember what happened afterwards. Strangely, one of the things that stands out to me the most when I think about how my life changed after my dad's diagnosis had to do with my homework. I had to learn to become a more independent student. My parents used to go over my homework with me every night to make sure that I got the questions right and that I knew what was going on in class. But since my dad was so tired all the time and mom had so much on her plate taking care of us, I decided that I didn't need my homework to be checked anymore. Now, looking back, it seems really insignificant, but to a highly motivated third grader with perfectionist tendencies, getting a question or two wrong in class was a big change. Now, e-learning is a far cry from not having your third grade math worksheet checked by your parents. But haven't we all been pushed to become more self-sufficient students and teachers and employees? No doubt that comes with its learning curve and daily challenges, but I would argue that we can all be better for it. After my dad's diagnosis, he started chemotherapy, which would last for a few days, leave him exhausted and sick for the next 3 weeks. And then when he finally started feeling more normal, he'd go back to the hospital and it would start all over again. I remember Dad coming home from work exhausted every night, but even then he almost always made it to the dinner table and was an engaged part of our conversations. I remember that very clearly. I would save my best story from school, or the tidbit from the book that I was reading, or whatever else was most important to me that day, for when we could all sit down and be together. I'm sure all Dad really wanted to do was go take a nap, but I never caught on. And I like to think that the things that my sisters and I had to share were uplifting and made everything a little bit more bearable for him. Although I didn't realize it at the time, those evenings were so important. They gave us a sense of normalcy and stability during that hectic period of our lives. I learned to appreciate the moments we had together, the little ones that brought joy, when we could all laugh over a silly comment that my little sister made, or the weekends when we could go out as a family, or the Saturday nights we'd spend at my grandma's house. Finding those little moments of joy was important for all of us back then, just as it is now. One of the things that has gotten me through the past year has certainly been my family. Even though it can be incredibly difficult to be with the same people day in, day out, still having dinner together as a family and going for walks with my mom, those things still help the rest of the world and its chaos fall away, even if it's just for a few minutes. I've once again come to appreciate the little moments of joy in my life, whether it's laughing out loud in virtual class or playing in a socially distanced rehearsal. When we remember that we have this ability to take advantage of what we're going through, it can change everything. I realized when I was 8 years old, and I'm realizing again today, that I can view my life right now as a curse, as something painful and difficult and grueling that I have to get through, or I can view it as the thing that I've got, something that I can take and use to appreciate the little moments of joy that exist inside of it instead of focusing on the lost experiences. That's the key. We can look back at the past year as a time when we lost so much, or we can look at it as a period of growth and creativity and strength. The latter is the way that I prefer to look at my dad's battle with cancer, and it's the way that I'm trying to look at the pandemic. I know from experience that viewing the past months through this lens will help us see that we're coming out of them stronger than before. The important thing is not whether we remember this, but how we remember it. Thank you.